Welcome to The Geek in Review, the podcast focused on innovative and creative ideas in the legal industry. I'm Marlene Gabauer.
And I'm Greg Lambert.
This week, we're joined by an old friend of the podcast, Ed Walters, Chief Strategy Officer at vLex. Ed, welcome back to The Geek in Review.
Who are you calling old?
Yeah,
old friend, not old.
Let's say a friend of long tenure.
Okay, because that sounds better.
Right.
that is so true. So I knew Ed before there was a Fast Case 50.
That's right.
That's true.
That's right. Don't date you're
Hey,
dating
Ed,
yourself.
Good to have you back on the show. So before we jump into the big topic this week, which is all of the news that's dropped with the vLex and your new releases. Actually, I don't think you knew I was going to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Wanted to have a little banter. So one of the things that we've been seeing a lot from the AI tools, the commercial ones, OpenAI's, Gemini's, Anthropics, and whatnot, are the launch of the reasoning models over the past few weeks, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. I've really liked diving in with the deep research and asking it questions and kind of watching it think and humanizing the whole models by saying that it's thinking. But I really wanted to kind of pick your brain on this, and that is, what kind of uses are you getting out of it, and are these models eking their way into some of the legal research tools as well? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, great question. I agree. I think they're totally fun, and really the work product that comes out of them is fascinating. I also like to watch the progress and the kind of humanizing, even though I know it's phony, right? It's like, when DeepSeek inside of Perplexity says, I guess I'd better pull the European Union regulations for privacy. Now I'm reading those. That's interesting.
You can see it scratching its beard, right?
Yeah. Like, I know it's phony, but I like it anyway. We're absolutely going to see these in the legal AI tools for sure. I mean, I'll just tell you, we're working with them extensively inside of vLex. I don't think it's a big trade secret. I mean, we're benchmarking them against each other for different tasks. I was doing it this morning, as a matter of fact, working with our tech team. And so I think there's a lot of promise for it. This reminds me a little bit of that jump between GPT 3.5 and GPT 4, where there was a pretty big jump in the capabilities, and a lot of people were kind of innovating around that. So it would surprise me a lot if we don't see that coming up all over the place in legal AI.
So the thing I don't want to see is the legal research tool saying, do you want me to email you after I've thought about this to let you know that then I'm going to conduct my research and then email you later? So that's
right.
Well, I was thinking about what, being very practical, like what's the potential impact on knowledge work? I feel like a lot of times legal research, is not billable often, and this may have a big impact in that space in terms of sort of reducing non-billable work and allowing, researchers and analysts to sort of move more quickly regarding these types of tasks, and maybe even get some more insights.
I think that's right. And let me just say, I think the other thing that's interesting about it, way beyond research, right? There's a lot of tasks that are kind of multi-step that we've not really been able to trust agentic AI or whatever you want to call it to complete. And there hasn't been transparency. We haven't been able to see the steps. But I do think that there's interesting ways of saying, look, here's the beginning of a corporate transaction. I want to know everything about the opposing party. I want to know everything about the opposing law firm and lawyer. I want to, look at all of the underlying documents that have led up to this. I want to do some discovery about the context of the transaction. That would be great for a lawyer or a team of lawyers to start with. And I think we're getting to the point where these agentic tools can break it down into multiple steps, maybe use different tools or different databases. I mean, we're looking at this inside of vLex saying you might want to look at, statutes in one area, but then dockets in another area. Maybe you want the patent portfolio and, here's a slice of expert witnesses that we're going to want to do some work on at the beginning of a litigation matter, maybe. And the ability to do these multi-step transactions and sort of bake that into a get me ready for litigation tool. Get us ready for this corporate transaction. We've just closed the asset purchase agreement. What are the 10 steps that our law firm does when we close a file like that?
Capturing that.
What you just said there made it sound like legal research is really hard. So
it is hard. But I'll just say, I always think people, because of the heritage of Fastcase and vLex, people think of our tools and Vincent AI as like kind of a legal research only tool, and we're great at it. But it's like, 3 or 4 of 23 different workflows that we're doing right now. And so I just want to make sure, yes, I think it's going to be amazing for legal research, but the applications are way beyond legal research too.
Until we get AGI, and then it just takes over all of our workflows.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah, it's not emailing you; it's emailing the client.
It's like I'll take this. I'll take this one.
Yeah, already got this. I'll bill the client separately.
Right.
Bob Ambrogi had reported on the AI Smackdown that was hosted by the Southern California Association of Law Libraries, or SCAL as we like to call them, which was held recently, and the Vincent AI was reported to have a great answer to the question that was posed at the Smackdown. So the test was between Lexis Plus AI, which I think is Protege now, Westlaw Precision AI, which they've branded. I think the whole concept is co-counsel now is the package. So branding, I guess, is important. And and vLex's Vincent AI. And is there a different way to brand that, or is it still Vincent AI?
We're keeping it super simple. It's just Vincent AI.
Thank you. Thank you. So, but the panel of librarians still said that, AI assisted research is a great starting point, and to use, and use of traditional sources are still necessary. So why do you think that they still look at, going back to the core research, and how is vLex trying to change that?
Yeah, well, I think that they did an awesome job in this review. Not just because we did really well, but I think I love seeing
it hurt.
It doesn't hurt. But I love seeing law librarians in these kind of benchmarking tests, because they are so rigorous in the methodology. They really understand well how to gauge quality and to do that in a kind of a quantitative, objective way. And so I thought Skull did an amazing job of this. And I think that the tools were very powerful. I think, all of the tools did really well. I think it was pretty clear from the conclusions, not mine, but theirs, that Vincent had the most depth of the answers and got some uniquely right answers that the other tools didn't. And as proud as I am, I'll be the first to say, our whole team always says, these are first draft answers, not last draft answers. If you had a superstar associate in your firm, your corporate legal department, and gave them a research task, and they came back with like a just rock solid answer, you still have to go read the cases and the statutes to make sure that they say what they're supposed to. You have to verify even the best human lawyer work. And I think the same thing is true about these kind of legal AI tools. You should trust but verify. And my hope in this is that, well, you've heard me say this before, I don't think that legal matters are a single event. They're a chain, right? And we might be able to replace the most boring or problematic or difficult links in that chain. But I always think that the last links of that engagement have to be human judgment. And there's no AI tool that can or should replace that human judgment at the end. And so, maybe we can take like the first 2 days of an engagement and throttle it, and get like an 80% answer in the first 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I don't know. But, very quickly get some of the early blocking and tackling work done so that lawyers can do more. And maybe they bill the same number of hours, but they just do better work in that time. Maybe they don't have to file the extension that they typically file because they're able to, really crank on that work in the first couple of days. That's kind of my aspiration for Vincent AI. I think that's what we're really hoping.
Yeah, it's noteworthy that like Bob actually tried the test himself, and he was using deep research, and he said it reported very admirably, without access to paywall legal research content. And I've seen some Gen AI solutions that don't have that type of behind the scenes access, and they perform okay. But not apparently as good as deep research did. And I'm curious, like, do you have any thoughts about how they managed to accomplish that?
Well, they're using public data sets like Justia.
Right.
And so that's great. I mean, I think the questions I would ask are, where's the citator? And how are they making sure that they're pulling from the majority opinion and not the dissenting opinion? The majority opinion, not a concurrence. In a Supreme Court case where, 4 justices are joining part 2 and 3 are joining part 3, but parts 1 and 5 are the majority opinion. How are we making sure that that part is being treated as governing law? And so this is a super hard problem. We actually created the cert citator at Fastcase and now vLex to help address that issue. We worked with the Judicata team when they joined Fastcase to parse the entire judicial opinion library and break out the majority opinions from the concurrences and the dissents. The first 85% of it is pretty easy for the large language models to do, but the last 85% is essential for lawyers, and you really have to have custom built legal AI tools to do that. And not just any off-the-shelf, we're lawyers too tools. I mean, this is really hard. We spent, 4 years, $5 million building the cert citator. And we had, the Judicata team who worked on that with us in-house is like some of the brightest people who have ever thought about legal tech. So I just want to say I have huge respect for the deep research tools. They're amazing. I use them all the time. For legal work, the last 15% matters, and that's the part that the Vincent AI vLex team sweats all the time.
Yeah, that's a really good distinction to raise.
And is it current, right? I mean, we're updating these things like, every day. We don't really know when the last time those models were trained or what data sets are pulling from.
Or when those public sites have been updated as well,
Right.
So in addition to the SCAL testing, is it, I'm going to say it wrong, is it vLex's?
I think they pronounce it Val's AI.
Val's, okay. Val's just released their report on legal AI. And so this study is apparently the first systematic attempt to independently benchmark legal AI tools against a lawyer control group in this instance. And so they use, I guess several real world tasks, and they got it from Am Law 100 firms. And apparently there were some instances where the AI outperformed the lawyers. So I'm wondering, should we be worried?
Well, I mean, this was certainly true with eDiscovery, and law firms made a ton of money from eDiscovery, sending young lawyers to warehouses in upstate New York and New Jersey. Strangely specific example, yes, I was one of them. And, at some point, software got better at that, better at accuracy, better at recall for discovery tasks than human lawyers. And there are more lawyers in America after eDiscovery than there were before. They tend to be happier, fewer paper cuts. Fewer associates quit in the warehouse in
That sounds
Islip, New
oddly
Jersey.
specific too.
Strangely specific example, Ed. But so I think we may be at that moment right now. Like the big watershed event for e-discovery was a report by Maura Grossman that said that the tools had higher accuracy and higher recall than human review, which has its own error rates. And I feel like this VAL's report may be one of those watershed moments. Look, I deal with lawyers all the time and law students who say legal AI is great, but these tools just aren't there yet. And when I ask, like, what do you mean by that? They say, I just don't feel like they're quite good enough. And this is the first attempt really to quantify that. To be fair, the lawyers did great too. These are very good lawyers. But in many cases, the AI tools as a whole did measurably better than lawyers. The
Was
kind
it
of
areas
blind...
that you would expect that they would do better?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Take a giant, mass of documents and create an accurate summary. Sure. I mean, I think it's clear that large language models will have an advantage there. I think lawyers did really well in complex synthesis of SEC Edgar documents. That doesn't really surprise me. I was surprised, though, that the AI tools as a whole did as well as they did. I'm really psyched about it. I'll just say directly, the tasks that Val's AI were studying are not super strong tasks for Vincent AI. Our strength is really this giant mass of structured legal documents for tasks like research or analyzing the legal implications of an asset purchase agreement by looking at Michigan law, and these tasks were kind of extractive. We're going to give you a document and then pull all of the key terms out of the document. And we do fine at that, right? But I mean, our strength is really in more complex tasks. And Vincent did great. I mean, in 4 out of the 5 areas where we were competing, we were within the margin of error or measurably better than the lawyers doing that work. And again, this was blind grading. It wasn't the people who were evaluating it weren't looking at the answer key. They couldn't see which came from which service, whether it was created by a lawyer or somebody else. The other takeaway, by the way, that I thought was really interesting was at the slowest, the AI tools were 6 times faster than lawyers. At the fastest, they were 80 times, not 80.
Wow.
80 times faster than lawyers working on the same tasks, and better, and measurably higher quality answers. That's amazing.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. Well, I mean that's the thing with technology is that you use it where it makes you more efficient. That if you can do the triad of better, cheaper, faster, then let's try to do that.
Absolutely, yes.
So Ed, one of the features that you just released that I'm really excited about is the ability for vLex to do multimodal type interactions where it can analyze audio and video files, which is something that I've been excited about since OpenAI came out with Vision. And you could take a picture of a guy standing on a ladder that's on top of a forklift and ask what OSHA violations there are here.
Right.
So and I think that really has a really good use case in litigation, probably others as well. So you mind kind of giving us a little bit of the details of how it works, how you got it implemented, and what are some use cases that you think people could use it for?
Sure. And would you like to take a look while we discuss it?
You want to jump in on that part, Marlene? Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. So this was something that a lot of law firms and corporate legal departments were asking us for because they deal with an intake interview that they videotape, or they have the audio transcript of a deposition, or maybe like a video of an oral argument, as we have in this example right here. How do we deal with that? Like, you finish the oral argument, you want to report back to the client. What do you tell them? You can't give the oral argument and take notes at the same time. Being able to take the transcript of a deposition and say what parts of this deposition are inconsistent with the documentary evidence we have before. And you can't deal with that if you can't transcribe it. There are plenty of services that transcribe audio and video, but they're not secure, right? And so Vincent AI is SOC 2, Type 2 compliant, the most secure platform certifications you can get, because Marlene told me that we had to, and we did. And so now you can deal with audio and video files in this very secure environment that meets all of your clients' requirements as well. So this is it right here. In this example, I have uploaded kind of a long 30-minute MP4. This is a video file of an Ohio Supreme Court oral argument. It involved, a judge who was reprimanded for speaking about politics in court. And so immediately when I upload it, Vincent creates a transcript. And so we can see right away the entire transcript of the oral argument. Now I can copy that, paste it into a Word document or something. But from that, just like other places you've seen in Vincent AI, Vincent reads that transcript and says, what do you want to do with this? I mean, you can ask something open-ended if you want. I think this is really a strength of Vincent. It says, like, here are the kinds of things that lawyers would do when you have this kind of document, the transcript of an oral argument, for example, but whatever it is. And so you see these very specific suggestions. Create a concise summary of the defense arguments presented by Mr. Funk on behalf of this judge, focusing on the First Amendment issues. Create a timeline. Draft rebuttal points. And then at the bottom, these are legal questions. So if you want to do research and find out what the legal precedents are for First Amendment protections for judges in Ohio, you can select that. And of course, we'll pull that from the vLex's collection. What are the standards for judicial discipline in Ohio? These aren't baked in. These are suggestions that are created by reading through the transcript of that oral argument. And so you can see when I create a timeline, it puts it in a nice table. I can download that table in Excel. This is new. So in the last column, it says source, and the source is from the transcript. And if you mouse over the site, it will show you what in the transcript created that element in the timeline. But if I click it, it will open the transcript and jump right to the part of the transcript where that came from, allowing you to verify for yourself that should be in the timeline or not. And let me just say one thing about this. So I'm pretty excited about this individual element. A highlight of Vincent in the past was the transparency of it. Being able to see what sources go into making an answer, have hyperlinks to them, open the statute, open the judicial opinion, open the regulation, confirm it for yourself. This allows you to do that same kind of transparency with documents that you upload. So if you upload, 100 documents and say, analyze all of the legal risks in these documents, it can create a table or a list and have the citations to those documents. These are all from the same one, but in that case, you would have like the name of the document and the place where that risk was identified, and you can mouse over it and see where it comes from or click on it and jump right to the spot in that document. This creates that same kind of transparency that Vincent is known for with primary law, but that transparency extends to documents that users upload, which is really nice. And in this case, like a transcript or an oral argument or something.
Now, I know one of the things I think right now, what it's doing with the video is that it is extracting essentially the transcript and using the text. Do you see in the very near future that it can go just directly off of the video itself, so that it's not just essentially creating text out of the voices, but can leverage some of the uh, nuances that are in the actual images of the video itself? Because that's something I think we're not quite at yet, but hopefully getting to.
Yeah, I love that idea. And what I imagine is like maybe the top of the frame being the video and the bottom being the transcript, or the top being the audio and the bottom being the transcript. And when you jump to the point where the written transcript exists, you'll jump to the same point in time in the audio or video file so you can listen to it and hear it for yourself.
Very cool.
Good. It's interesting times.
It's amazing.
Very cool. Very cool.
So this is part of the winter 2025 release of Vincent AI. We're moving to a kind of a seasonal release schedule, and there's just so much in these. When we launched autumn 24, there was like a lot in that release. In the winter 25 release, similarly, there's a lot going on here. People who subscribe to Vincent get all of this for included at no additional cost. It's included in the price of the subscription. And I mean, it's a pretty startling upgrade. And I'll just mention like all of the benchmark tests and everything that were done, the SCAL and the vLex's AI benchmark were before we launched winter 2025. So there's all kinds of new skills and abilities in Vincent now too.
So another part of the winter 25 upgrade, I guess, is vLex is now integrating docket alarms litigation data to produce litigation workflows, which is really great, I think. I mean, it's like we've been focused for so long on transactional workflows, in big law and innovation there. So I think it's nice to see, as a former litigator, I think it's nice to see litigation get its due. But in using these workflows, what are the ethical considerations lawyers need to be aware of? And also, I don't know if you can show those or not, but if you can, great. We'd love to take a look.
Yeah, happy to. So let me just say, first of all, thank you, because I think that the docket alarm materials are so helpful. Mm-hmm. It's a gold mine, right? There's so much information in the complaints and briefs and pleadings and motions before judges. The docket alarm collection is more than 860 million docket sheets, briefs, pleadings, motions, and each individual document's great. You can use it as a precedent if you're about to file something. It solves the blank sheet of paper problem. But in the aggregate, it's so useful. The information in here about individual lawyers or judges or law firms or parties, if a party never settles, that will be something that you see in their docket filings. It's not going to be a judicial opinion or something, right? There's not going to be a statute that you can conjure up that says Google tries its cases instead of settling them. But you can see that in the docket information. And so one of the cool things about it in this Winter 25 release is that we have released a whole bunch of new AI workflows that leverage this docket information. I think this is unique. I don't know of anyone else who has legal AI tools that are building on top of this kind of giant volume of structured data. And the other thing that's cool about it is you can ask like open-ended questions, like show me all of the data protection cases that deal with children. There's not a flag in Pacer or something, or in California dockets that mention whether the case involves children, but you can find that with AI. And so in this case, I asked, give me a profile of a lawyer, and Vincent in Docket Alarm, or VITA as we call it, went into the docket databases and found a bunch of the cases litigated by this lawyer. Not like one document. It's not like pulling the complaint. It's pulling the entire docket for the case. Some of these cases aren't even completed, right? And so we have a complete summary of this case. what her role was, the status of the case, the background of the facts, what happened in the motion practice, what the outcome of the case was, how complex it was, what experts were in the case. And if I click on it, you go straight into that full docket in Docket Alarm. So you can see for yourself, you can run the timeline to sort of see what happened in this case. I mean, these are amazing. This is really cool. And then, so this pulls lots of these major cases for this lawyer and summarizes them all and then rolls them up into an answer and says, here are the types of cases this lawyer has handled: False Claims Act, RICO, securities litigation. Here's how effective she is in her motion practice. Here's the average case duration. Here's the most significant cases. Here are the major clients who she's worked for. So this is, I don't know. I mean, it's not the first time we've profiled lawyers ever, but this took like maybe 10 minutes.
Right.
And so it's almost crazy not to do this at the beginning of a case. Like, why wouldn't you want to know everything about the opposing party, about the law firm who works on the case, about the individual lawyer who's going to be first chair? I think of it almost like shepherdizing the lawyers and the judges and the opposing parties before you start a case.
Well, it's going to offer you, insight in terms of, your litigation strategy. How does this, how familiar is this person with, the type of claims that are being raised? Do they settle? Do they not settle? All of those things are going to influence what, how you approach it and how you advise your client.
And I'll just point out, I didn't run like a Boolean terms and connectors search here. This is the way you would ask like a research associate a question, and Vincent figures it out. It says like, here's the kinds of things I would want to pull together. I think this is the most agentic of the Winter 25 workflows. It's doing like 50 different things behind the scenes and then bringing them all back together and then summarizing them in this beautiful, comprehensive, fact-based report.
I feel like you could sort of use this in combination with other things in doing vLex and sort of, put together a package and sort of deliver that as a product, as opposed to just kind of answering a question.
It's a great insight. I think this is one of the ways forward for law firms, by the way. If their work becomes more efficient and the number of hours dips a little bit because of that efficiency, why don't we do more for clients and refill the bucket? Let's create new products for corporate legal departments that would be super helpful for them, that they would want to see. They would want the extra information and the insights that we can create. And that's, these are products that we can create inside of law firms and make even more money.
Yeah. And Ed, one of the things, do you mind just going back real quick to the one you did with the Illinois lawyer?
Sure.
Hers. So I just wanted to read that because the actual prompt was just, please profile Illinois white collar litigator, and in this case, Lisa Noller being the name.
She's a friend from law school, so I picked on her.
You want to see what she's up to these days?
She's an excellent litigator.
Becoming famous.
I'm just wondering, just the spark, because we're seeing a lot of tools, and I think Perplexity was kind of the leader in this, of also being able to essentially search the internet as well. I'm curious, do you see at some point that you could augment some of these and just say, also go out and search the web and augment the information? Or do you think there's issues with that, at least at this point?
I love that idea. I mean, especially if it's from like a firm website or something, I think that would be super useful. I want to put guardrails on it because the information we're using is all public documents. It's all verified. It's all been filed in courts. That there's a little bit more verification I would want to do on the public web. I'm not going to start pulling YouTube comments and threads from Reddit or something. So I would just say,
the juicy information is, Ed.
I don't know, you might be able to find some stuff in there.
So I do think that there is the potential to weave those kinds of agentic workflows into these products where you have guardrails where you can verify. But at the very least, there is such a gold mine of information in these kind of publicly filed documents in state and federal courts. The big data implications when you combine it with AI allow you to ask very simple questions and get quantitative, very specific, well-substantiated information back.
Well, thanks for walking us through that.
That's great. This is great.
So since we're talking about, security and making sure that we're verifying the right information and we're being careful with it, you had talked earlier about vLex becoming SOC 2 Type 2 certified. You'd already had, I think, the ISO 27001. And so, what does that mean for your users? Does that mean that we can now put our information into Vincent and feel, that's safe? Did it help?
In a word, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. So, and we've had these very good security practices all along. I think that's table stakes. It's very, very important.
Yeah, I agree.
It takes a little while for SOC 2 to complete the certification to, validate that you are doing everything correctly. SOC 2 Type 2 is like one of the highest security certifications you can have. Law firms have to have it for their own internal systems. And what it means is that lawyers, law firms, corporate legal departments can rest assured when they upload documents, whether it be something for an M&A transaction to do due diligence, or collections of documents they're working on litigation, or if you're uploading a contract draft or a draft of a complaint or something, they can be assured that that is never used to train AI. It's not being sent out on the public web. It's being kept within the secure environment for that law firm. And at the end of the session, all of it is scrubbed. So you don't have to worry about, data breaches or something. The information put into Vincent AI is kept in the highest security vault you can possibly have. And so I love having the certification. I think that's very useful. I think there's a lot of law firms who trust us in the first instance, but their clients insist that you have to have that kind of third-party validation, which I totally understand, and I don't blame them. Maybe one other thing I would love to call out for this release, although I'm a little sheepish about it. So I think we've done a pretty good job of launching things instead of announcing a roadmap. It's a pet peeve of mine with legal tech products when they say, today we're announcing, version 2 of this thing. It will be released at some point, in the next 6 months.
It'll be released in 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, here is the next generation of our tool. This is a PowerPoint that shows you what it might look like at some point in the future.
There's a wireframe.
Here's
a slick advertisement of something that we're thinking about doing.
Look, I get it. I shouldn't knock them too much, but I think at least the vLex team has done a very good job of building first and then announcing it and releasing it. Right, all of this stuff is live. Everything I've shown you has been live in the platform for several weeks. The best firms in the world are already using it to get a leg up. So this last part, I am just a little shy about. I'm announcing with our team, Vincent Studio. And we're opening the beta to it right now. Anyone who's interested can send an email to beta@vlex.com for consideration for Vincent Studio. That puts the firm's own ideas, their own tiles on the home screen. And so I would just say, like, the Vincent Studio is a makerspace for the world's most innovative law firms to create their own workflow tools. They can use vLex data. They can use vLex tools. but then use their own expertise, their own use cases, their own data if they would like to, or their own AI tools. But they can do it all in the secure environment. And instead of us saying, we're going to send you a copy of the, Texas code, you can just use the Texas code inside of vLex, which we're updating every day, and build on top of that. And so when people build these tools, their workflow tools will appear on the home screen right next to ours. And there will be like a collection of the firm's workflow tools that leverage the firm's expertise. If a firm has a particular strength in oil and gas or securities offerings or venture proffers or something, then they can use that expertise and the firm's own documents supplemented with ours and create their own workflow tools on this homepage. I think that's cool. And we've had a lot of law firms come to us and say, I would love for you to create something that's very highly bespoke to us. And I think our response has been, look, we can't build everything that every law firm wants to do with AI, but we will co-develop it with you. We've got this brilliant team of people at vLex Labs who are really good at product specification and project management and design. And they know all the tools, all the APIs inside of our house, all the data sets. So this is an opportunity for law firms to create their own legal data tools. One thing I love is I think that there's a lot of cool innovation projects inside of law firms. There's really good ideas. Sometimes I've heard like even some firms are taking their new associates and having not quite a hackathon, but like kind of an idea-a-thon where they pitch an idea for a new tool. I would love it if the winning project were, submitted into the Vixen Studio beta, and they would then, by winning, have the opportunity to work with our team and to build it in the real world. Sometimes I feel like the law firm innovation initiatives will have 90% of what they need. That last 10%, like you don't want to update the US code every day,
Yeah.
That last 10% is something that we can help with. Or maybe it's the last 40%, or I don't know how much of it is going to be from the firm and how much is going to be from us. But if we can help firms get those innovation projects over the line, using our expertise and our data with some co-development in Vixen Studio, I think that's going to be a real winner. I'm excited about that.
Interesting, because I know, like yesterday I was working with a group of attorneys, and one of the projects that they had pitched was these were finance folks, and like UCC3, which I didn't even know about, was a thing. Shows where I am, but very.
Did you know there was a UCC2?
No, what?
Just want to make sure we're catching you up. Yes.
I just remember when it was you. So, but one of the things that was kind of holding back that project was the fact that, well, yeah, we can create like a KM system that will have this, but as with most KM systems, as soon as you develop it, it's already it's already becoming obsolete. So I can see where something like this would be really, really interesting for those types of groups, for KM projects where it's very important to keep things up to date and know as they change. So I think this is a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I mean,
thanks very much.
And as long as it is easy for them to use, that's the key.
I think that's really the strength, of AI. The old way we did this, the kind of Boolean terms and connector searches, where you get back like thousands and thousands of irrelevant results, and maybe not even all of the important ones. I feel like that Boolean searching maybe isn't dead, but certainly shouldn't be the default anymore. If you can ask the questions in very clear language, have
the hair on all the law librarians.
I was going to say we're going to get a whole bunch of comments on this.
Said that, right?
Yes, but I also know that, a lot of that hair was lost in Boolean searching.
That is
So,
true.
Turn
That
white.
is true.
um, so, I really feel like that is one of the strengths here. Being able to ask the question like you would ask a colleague. And, there's, as you remember from the Autumn 24 release, there is this feature inside of Vincent called Prompt Assist, where it will like read the question as you typed it and said, hey, there might be a different way of phrasing that, or it looks like you're asking two questions. Do you want to answer one or both? You might get a better answer if you break this up into a couple of different things. I think that's amazing. I think that's really useful. And instead of getting back like, no results found because you misspelled a word, having it come back and say, you misspelled this word. And by the way, there's a bunch of expressions about this that you don't even need to worry about. They're kind of related in a, AI sense, and we'll just go find them for you.
Well, I want to change topics before we wrap it up. We just saw in the news, recent news, that Rev Ventures, which is a corporate venture capital fund funded by vLex's, has invested in Harvey. And I'm curious, since you are, a futurist and a big thought leader in the space of legal technology, what message do you think that's sending to the legal tech industry?
I don't know about a futurist, but maybe I'm a gossip. I don't know.
Aren't those really the same thing?
I'm fascinated by this question. I would love for you to ask that question to somebody at Reed Elsevier or Harvey. It's very hard from the outside to see, what might be involved in that. I assume that vLex's is also investing a ton of money in, Lexis's tools as well. I hope. So maybe this is like, spreading your chips around or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
Are they giving you any money, Ed?
Rev? No. This is, vLex's is not an investor in vLex.
All right. Well, Ed, we're at the crystal ball point, and I know we asked you just a few months ago your crystal ball vision of the future. But what do you see as driving change over the next year or two, and what do you think the industry is going to look like?
Yeah, I'm cringing thinking about what I might have said the last time you asked me this.
We should have looked that up before we did this.
Some accountability here. So let me just say this.
That's good. We didn't look it up, Ed, so you can just say whatever.
Right. So let's establish that I was completely right with my predictions last time.
As usual, as always.
As always. Let me just say, this is a little bit self-interested, but I'm observing it in the world. One thing that's really important right now in legal tech is how defensible people's positions are. Things are changing so fast. There's so many new companies coming in. The foundation models are getting better. The kind of bigger players, the platform players in legal AI are constantly expanding their offerings. And I think one of the biggest questions for the next couple of years is, are these tools defensible? Are people building something that, co-counsel couldn't just release as a feature, or that couldn't be coming out in the next version of OpenAI's tools? And so it's going to be really hard, I think, for point solutions or, companies who have like a single product offering to be able to defend that territory when the foundation models are getting so much better, so much faster. And I think it's been part of our strategy at vLex. Like we said when we merged with Fastcase and vLex, that the foundation models would become something of a commodity. Do we care whether we're using Claude Sonnet 3.7 or, GPT 4.5, or DeepSeek or something? We don't really know at some level whether that's going to be a differentiator. But structured data is absolutely a differentiator. Like it took Fastcase and vLex around the world, Fastcase in the US, like 25 years of boiling the ocean to build that database. And there's so much that happens behind the scenes to keep it updated, to build the search citator, to make sure that we're pulling the right parts of judicial opinions, that we're updating statutes with recently passed acts. It's insanely hard. I mean, that's something that you can't just roll into the next version of Gemini. It's something that you can't just throw a lot of money at and build in any short amount of time. And so I do think those differentiators in the market are going to remain important. That was our thesis 2 years ago when we merged, and I think it's maybe even more true now. If I can make a slightly controversial prediction.
Please.
Those are the best kind.
We like those.
I think that there's not going to be any solid middle ground for improvement of the kind of general foundation models going forward. The jump from GPT-4 to 4.0, the jump from, kind of 3.4, 3.5 of Claude to 3.7, these are all relatively linear. The makers of these models seem pretty confident that we're going to achieve artificial general intelligence, or AGI, sometime during the next 4 years. And I'll just say, I'm pessimistic about that. So either that's going to happen and all bets are off everywhere, or there's going to be a kind of a plateau. We run out of words. There's not enough words to get that kind of step improvement in the models. And the ability of the foundation models kind of plateaus a little bit. And that's okay. That doesn't crash the market or anything. There's all kinds of stuff that they can do better. There's a million great products people can continue to build on top of those foundation models. Even if the models don't improve, the products built on top of them can continue to get better. But I think the kind of continuous improvement we've seen over the last couple of years might be hard to sustain. It might either plateau or, go completely vertical within the next couple of years.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, we'll see, because I do think, I listened to interviews. There's one of the guy that runs Anthropic that I listened to this morning, and he was basically saying that they're what did he say? In a finite number of time units, we are going to release this new model, but because they just released 3.7, which was a step up, and they're saying they're adding internet, which they said was a miscalculation on their part for not adding that in right now. But he was pretty certain that their 4, which he predicted, which would be a huge leap forward, was coming out soon. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens and what that means, if it's a significant leap or if it just means, we're adding that video functionality that we talked about earlier. That's
Right.
a big leap.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, maybe my last thing can be very practical, which is I really do think that law firms and corporate legal departments have significant untapped data assets. And I think the KM departments are going to show amazing gains in the next couple of years. I think the combination of public data with private data is going to be amazing. Maybe in Vincent Studio, maybe through our integration with iManage. But I think the combination of that proprietary, unique, differentiated law firm or corporate legal department data and the insights of the huge public data set, inside of vLex and Thomson Reuters and Reed Elsevier, if they open the walled garden, I think could be incredible. So that's we're putting big bets there on the iManage integration, on Vincent Studio, to try to build that next generation of applications.
And Ed, while you were talking, I looked it up, and apparently we did not ask you a crystal ball question the last time you were on.
What
So,
happened?
So I got nothing wrong.
I looked up the time before, which was when you were on with Sonia Ibram, and you predicted that I would be wearing a Louisiana State University jacket at AALL.
Which
And
came
he was
true.
right. He was right.
True.
He was right.
So you were spot on.
See,
for that.
he was right.
I'm
right.
batting 1,000 in the crystal ball.
Well, Ed, thank you so much for joining us on the Geek in Review. It's been really great having you on the show, and I think you're, one more closer to the tiara.
Yeah, you would look good in a tiara, I'm sure.
He would.
I would wear it.
And thanks to all of you, our listeners, for taking the time to listen to the Geek in Review podcast. If you enjoy the show, share it with a colleague. We'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, or Blue Sky.
Or Blue Sky.
Too. Yeah, I need to start putting that in the
yes,
in the
I
outro.
know. I will.
So, Ed, we'll make sure that we put things on the show notes, but what's the best place for people to reach out and learn more about what's going on at vLex or connect with you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at EJ Walters, and you can find all of this information on the vLex website at vlex.com/Vincent. We have a ton of documentation there, all the announcements. And if you want to reach out for Vincent's studio, beta at vlex.com.
All right. And is that anybody or is that current subscribers?
That's anybody.
Okay. All right. I know what I'm doing right after this call.
Me too. And as always, the music you hear is from Jerry David DeSica, who has dropped a new album. So go out and check it out.
I ordered mine yesterday. So thanks, Jerry. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right. Bye.